Hello and welcome to Arise America. I'm Julian Phillips. Debbie Turner-Bell has the night off. A New York Times investigation into the September 2012 attack on the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi, Libya, has reignited controversy. Now, the New York Times report released over the weekend calls into question the Republicans' accusation of an Obama administration cover-up. The report says there is no evidence of al-Qaeda or international terrorist involvement in the Benghazi attack that resulted in the death of U.S. Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans. Joining us here to discuss the New York Times investigation is RUSS BAKER, and he is also an award-winning investigative journalist. Russ, let's get right down to it. There's so much to discuss here. Number one, you're skeptical of this New York Times report. Why so?
Well, the more I look at this, the more I don't believe either side in this debate. I don't believe the Obama administration's explanation, and I don't believe the Republican explanation either.
So where do we stand with this now, with this latest report coming up? Of course, the political football is being raised again by both sides here. Of course, Darrell Issa from the Oversight Committee came on and said, look, there are several factions of al-Qaeda, so that doesn't mean that al-Qaeda was not involved. What is your take?
I think this is a typical kind of a superficial conversation and a debate between parties trying to get an advantage, nobody really with a stake at getting at the truth. What we're seeing here is the Republicans want to say that the Obama administration did something horrible here. They're looking to sort of somehow equate it to 9/11 because this is the biggest attack in terms of deaths of Americans since 9/11. But the reality is it was 4 people. 9/11 was almost 1,000 times as much under a Republican president. So there really is no comparison at all to be made. They're trying to say the Obama administration screwed up and that this was an al-Qaeda operation. On the other hand, the Obama people say, no, this was just a spontaneous demonstration. The more I look at this, I see that it is neither of those.
Well, what do you think it is?
Well, I'll tell you what I think is going on. You have a lot of high-stakes things happening in that region and around the world. At this very time, you have in Egypt a power struggle where the military is trying to regain power. And if you look at what happened here, this so-called spontaneous crowd was aroused because of a video which was insulting toward Islam.
So you think it was a video that was involved that perhaps ignited this whole attack?
I do, but I think that the video is part of a deception campaign, some sort of a covert operation to incite this crowd and therefore to put pressure on the United States to remain active in the region.
But let me ask you a question. Do you think that there were any warning signs, and even the New York Times article says, you know, look, there were warning signs. Perhaps if the government heeded these warning signs, they could have thwarted this attack?
There really weren't any warning signs. There are always warning signs in countries like that. There are always people saying things and things going on. But what we do see is evidence of surveillance being conducted in advance of this so-called attack. And we see it's very, very similar actually to what happened and got the West into Libya in the first place. Most people have forgotten this. How did we get into Libya at the beginning? We got in because of a supposedly spontaneous uprising in Benghazi a year before. But actually, at whowhatwhy.com, we've studied that. We spent an entire year writing articles about this, and there is strong evidence that the French intelligence services had something to do with instigating that original uprising.
Really?
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you a question, and I've got to go back to politics here for a second. I love politics. Look, is there some hypocrisy here with the Republicans who basically vetoed bills that would have given millions of dollars for embassy securities all around the country? They did it twice. They did it in 2011. They also did it in 2012.
Oh, absolutely. It's very, very clear that there was improper structural security and improper security present and active at the time. But I think the deeper issue here is the inadequacy of both the political debate and the journalistic effort to get to the bottom of these things. There is never any consideration of what you say, qui bono in Latin, who gains, what are the larger stakes in play here. There was very, very little look at that video, who actually made it, how it was that thing started coursing through right at that time. You can almost see it on an hour-by-hour basis. And you know what we call psyops or psychological operations are a mainstay of all militaries in the world.
We're going to have more on this later. Russ, I really want to thank you for your insight. You provided a lot, and also you're a newsbreaker here, providing some information that I don't think anybody else has. So thank you for your time, and we'll come back to this later on in the show and our other guest who's going to join us later.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.